You're camping in the woods. After you put your fire out and get into your tent, you slowly start drifting into a dream-like state. As soon as you fall asleep, you hear screaming outside of your tent deep into the woods. As you get deeper and deeper into the woods, you realize that the voice is somehow getting further and further away, even as you seemingly get closer. By the time that you realize it was a bad idea to aimlessly run into the woods alone, it is too late. You've fallen for a trap set by a supernatural entity hunting for the taste of human flesh, the Wendigo. The Wendigo is one of the Native American spirits that we will be exploring tonight. We handpicked the most spine-chilling stories from Native American legends. Also, take this episode as a warning to all of you who plan on venturing into the woods of North America, because this one could save you. Oftentimes, clever tricksters, these spirits show no mercy if you fall into their traps, similar to Swiper from Dora. Swapping, no swapping, swapping, no swapping. Now join us as we dive into the depths of the bubbling cauldron. My name is Kayla and this is Cauldron Convos, baby. Let's take this off because we're getting rowdy. It was Thanksgiving, now it's Christmas, now we with Santa. Okay. Please subscribe if you want Santa to have more than 2 pairs of underwear because it's getting stinky in this room. It smells like jingle balls. Sammy, put those balls away. Put those cranberries and cinnamon stick away. Whew, I love the smell. That's a Native American legend of Santa Claus. Now, before we get any further into this video, I wanted to quickly ask you guys to please consider subscribing to this channel because we post videos every single week. We actually now post twice a week most weeks, so if you want that good spirit, paranormal, spine-chilling, conspiracy topics, make sure to hit that subscribe button and we will deliver because we do all the research. We spend hours researching and talking about the cool things that you want to hear.
All for your entertainment.
All for you, baby. Yeah, I keep saying baby. I also reply to every single comment, so make sure to comment.
We'd like to thank Dale Wood from the Wooddale Public Library for sponsoring this episode of
We love you.
Cauldron Convos.
Okay, that's enough. Now let's get into it. Now, trading stories is an integral part of Native American culture, a norm that is still carried on by modern Native tribes. Given this month is Native American Heritage Month, and given that this past week was Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, by the way. What are you grateful for? Comment down below. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this Santa, I don't know, balls. But we wanted to focus this week's episode on Native American legends, spirits, and chilling paranormal stories. The US government acknowledges 574 Native American tribes, so there are clearly a ton of Native American tribes, and they do have different distinguishable legends, stories. Sometimes they vary slightly, sometimes they vary extremely, so just wanted to give that disclaimer before we get into it. I hope no one comments like, "That's wrong. My great-grandmother is of a Cherokee and that's because you know what? I'm doing my best here. We're doing our best. We're Googling. We're putting in the time. We want to be accurate, but do note that sometimes it varies. For example, one tribe sees owls as a sign of death, that it's on its way. One Reddit user noted, "My mom won't let anything that has to do with owls in her house because of it."
Sorry, Hedwig.
Hedwig.
Get
What
the
other?
fuck outta here.
Sorry, owl from Winnie the Pooh, cult classic.
Sorry, Zizor.
Zizor. However, the Cherokees actually see this as a good sign that a messenger from the spirit world is coming. And we know that skinwalkers is a very popular, intriguing legend of the Navajo tribe, but we're not going to do it this episode just because we want to dedicate a whole full episode on it because we're just so interested in it. So hang tight. We wanted to learn and hear stories from Native Americans themselves, so we went on Reddit, specifically on a thread with nearly 4,000 upvotes that asked the Native Americans of Reddit to share their tribe's ghost stories, legends, and supernatural occurrences. And the top comment on the thread referred to a Cherokee legend about a horned snake called the Uktena. Now, the comment stated that Uktena is said to be a very large and round like a tree trunk with horns on his head, and the only way to wound him is to shoot at a singular spot on his forehead that emits bright light. This kind of reminds me of the Hobbit movie. What's the dragon?
Smog.
Yeah, where they like have to shoot at the... Okay.
Shoot under his armpit.
Yeah. And this bright light is similar to a diamond, and if you defeat Uktena, you become a miracle worker, a great warrior. Yet once you see the light of his forehead, you run towards it instead of trying to escape. Even to see Uktena sleeping is death, not to the hunter, but to his family. And someone else on this thread added to the Uktena conversation by stating, I'm Cherokee and growing up the Uktena, the horned serpent, really freaked me out. The mountain my family lived on has these mysterious glowing lights that according to legend was from the Uktena trying to kick people into finding it.
Trick people.
Oh.
You said kick.
Uktena trying to trick people into finding it. And although the stories of Uktena vary across tribes, a lot of the stories associate Uktena with water, rain, lightning, and thunder, and typically describe the Uktena as a dragon-like horned serpent that originates from the Cherokee Nation. And according to the Cherokee legends of this Native American monster, the first Uktena was made long ago when the sun sent a sickness down to kill the people on Earth. A man was changed into a horned snake and was sent to kill the sun. He failed, but the rattlesnake tried next and succeeded. The Uktena was so jealous and angry about his failure that all of the people were afraid of him, so they took him away from the tribe and hid him. That story kind of doesn't make sense, but...
Doesn't make sense.
Whatever. That's the story. Now, another commenter on this Reddit thread pointed out a few different creatures his tribe believes. He said, in my tribe, they talk about a beast called, rough translation here, the Flame Walker. Spirits who take the form of a small blue flame that leads people into swamps and bogs, where they eventually drown or otherwise vanish. Another are the water-faced hunters. Again, rough translation, and I'm not heavily involved in my tribe these days. These creatures have a face that act like a pool of water, reflecting the face of anyone who looks them in the eyes. They mercilessly hunt down the people who acknowledge them. The only way to avoid them is to not speak to or interact with a stranger unless you can see their face from the corner of your eye. This commenter continues to say that they also have traditional skinwalker type legends, as well as the Bogmen.
Which is more or less Sasquatch that lives in a swamp.
He said that my tribe is considered part of the Abenaki, but are actually a smaller sub-tribe. Basically, when it came down to it, there were not enough of the tribe to actually be considered a tribe anymore. Today, we number fewer than 200, and only 8 of those are more than half-blooded. My bio father and his brother, as well as my paternal grandparents, are the last 4 full-blooded of my tribe. I'm so glad they're here, but that's so sad. So let's go on to the next Native American legend, the Stick People. Now, Stick People are said to be believed by the Northwest Native American tribes, particularly the Salish. I'm sorry if I'm saying all of these names wrong. Salish? Mystical, malicious, and elusive forest people or spirits with powers. Now, some tribes describe stick people as Bigfoot-like creatures, while others say they are forest dwarves, and they are known to have mind control or hypnotic powers, and either communicate with bird and animal sounds, or laughs and whispers in the forest.
Yikes.
Yeah. So just imagine hearing like, bloop, bloop, bloop. Hello? Santa. Now, stick people may eat people who fall prey to them. They may kidnap children and use them as slaves even, or molest women. They also take aggressive revenge against people who injure or disrespect them, no matter how unintentionally, and they're said to mess with tribes at night. So for example, if you accidentally like, I don't know, spit a piece of gum and it accidentally like falls on their foot, they're like, and like will seek havoc and like steal your children and use them as slaves. They frequently seek revenge, and some people say that they have the power to hypnotize or cause instant insanity. Almost every tribe agrees that they are able to induce dread, confusion, and anxiety to humans, especially humans wandering alone. So don't go camping alone, guys, and don't go chasing after someone screaming in the woods. And another specific Reddit commenter that I thought was very interesting said that she doesn't know any, or he doesn't know any actual stories to tell, but they know a lot of rules that were given to them by their elders in their tribe. Now, the first one, if you hear someone you know calling your name, but you also know they're not supposed to be there, do not respond, especially if they are out of sight and insisting you come to them.
That sounds pretty sketchy. The second rule is always play group games in counterclockwise order, otherwise you're playing with the dead.
Also, don't eat in the dark. This is considered inviting the dead to eat with you. If you can extend your hand all the way out and still see it clearly, then you're fine. You can eat in the dark. You can pursue your s'mores.
Who eats in the pitch black?
Alone.
Like, I don't like not being able to see my hand.
If I can't see the food, I don't know how much I'm shoving in my mouth.
No better way to consume mac and beef.
True.
All 5 food groups.
We love it.
Number 3, don't play card games past midnight. If you do, and someone knocks on the door, don't answer it. Try not to drop your cards. If you do, then don't bend down to pick them up, or you will see hooves under the table. That's bad.
Say thank you after meals, even if you're the one that made it. Even better if you say it in native tongue. If someone finishes their meal and says thank you, you say you're welcome, even if you didn't give it to them. Even better in native tongue.
Don't try to contact spirits, especially with board games. This is not a tribe's custom. It's more of an unspoken common sense among the res people. So don't use Ouija boards.
After someone dies, you should gather family as quickly as possible to have feasts for 10 days. The first dinner is large, then every meal after that is smaller feasts meant for portions of the family to come at different times to help. The last feast on the day 10 is the closing dinner, which is the largest, with the entire family expected to show up and help. For every meal of these 10 days, put out a plate of the deceased's favorite foods first. Contrary to Rule 4, you do not say thank you at any time during these 10 days. This is because it is believed that it takes the dead 10 days to relive their lives before they pass on. So this is your last chance to eat with them. Aw, that's cute. You have 10 days to relive your entire life.
Damn.
So I guess they all know what each other's favorite foods are.
That's nice.
Mine's Velveeta mac and cheese.
Rule number 7. If a bird flies into your house, someone's gonna die. What?
It's gonna be that bird!
Oh.
Pregnant women should not hold any child that isn't theirs.
Rule number 9. It's accepted that if you actually try to curse anyone, literally going through all of the steps with the intention to harm them, not in accidentally wishing them bad luck or anything, then your family will be cursed horribly.
And my favorite, and I never learned from this one, but if you play with fire, you'll wet your bed.
So, if you're trying to wet your bed, play with fire. That one seems the most harmless one out of all of them.
I try every night. No, it's like all really messed up, and the last one's like, don't pee your bed, you frickin' ninny. I'm going to quickly talk about the Mimi. My Mimi. I love how, like, Italian kids used to be like, my Mimi's coming.
I didn't really grow up in an Italian neighborhood.
Is that? So. I don't even know if that's Italian. I just know that this woman was named Mimi, and I think people call their aunt Mimi.
Is she Italian?
I think.
So? That's Italian.
Okay, Mimi. We have a spirit similar in Aboriginal culture. It's called a Mimi spirit. Basically, when you walk about this spirit day or night, it will try and trick you into following it. It will appear, you walk to it, and it vanishes. It will appear again, you again follow it, for it to disappear again. Repeat this multiple times, and you are lost forever. Imagine.
How do they know that, though? Because they're lost forever?
It's just like, because when this person was 7, they actually met their elder whose son was taken by the Mimi's spirit. The person will never forget her broken face when she told the class.
A lot of these spirits are tricksters.
Yeah.
What's wrong with these guys?
I know.
They're like demons. Like in the Ouija board episode, they're just trying to trick you.
Yeah. And you know something interesting? This is like a kind of side note thing, but I saw another Reddit thread while diving in and trying to find the best legends to tell you guys that explained that the reason why that there aren't really Native American ghost hauntings, or like, you know how there's so many hauntings of like the 1800s and people like just whatever, white settlers, the reason why there are ghosts of them is because they haven't like finished their business and closed up on it. Well, like Native Americans, they're like, I feel like they accept death kind of. They're not like interested in material things and stuff like that, so they don't need to dwell on this earth.
Historically.
They can move on. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it said, not me. But it was an interesting thought.
Yeah, that is interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
They're one with the land.
Yeah. Or maybe they have these legends so they feel more like at peace. Well, not the bad ones, but the good ones. Not the Mimi.
Or out of like all the religions in the world, the Native American religions are the right ones.
Yeah, maybe. But now we're going to talk about the Wendigo. And before we tell you what it is, I just want to read a little passage about the Wendigo. From Basil Johnson, which is an Ojibwe teacher and scholar from Ontario, Canada. The Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation. Its desiccated skin pulled tautly over its bones. With its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton, recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody. Its body was unclean and suffering from suppurations of the flesh, giving off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. The Wendigo, everybody.
The Wendigo is a really creepy creature. It's a corrupt spirit, more or less, corrupt soul. And anybody could, in theory, turn into a Wendigo.
Eek.
The Wendigo is a spirit derived from the Native Americans, First Nations, as well as the Great Plains. The creature has long been known among the Algonquin, and it is recognized by all Algonquin-speaking language groups.
Ojibwe, Eastern Cree, Saulteaux, West Main Swampy Cree, Naskapi, and Innu peoples.
The Wendigo is said to be a flesh-eating spirit. The name roughly translates to the evil spirit that devours mankind. Hunters in native tribes were often seen as responsible for proper hunting practices so that the tribe didn't end up eating human flesh during longer and harsh winters. Once an individual is to consume human flesh, they are essentially banished from their tribe and they turn into a Wendigo. Now, the physical appearance of a Wendigo is dependent on the tribe you ask. An Algonquin legend describes the Wendigo as a giant with a heart of ice. Sometimes it is even thought to be entirely made of ice. Its body is skeletal and deformed with missing lips and toes.
Ew. Just one missing lip and like one toe.
While the Ojibwe legend...
What? Ojibwe? Ojibwa.
Oh, while the Ojibwa legend describes the Wendigo as a large creature as tall as a tree with lipless mouth, jagged teeth. Its breath was a strange hiss. Its footprints full of blood, and it ate any man, woman, or child who ventured into its territory. Sometimes, the Wendigo would choose to possess a person instead, and then the luckless individual will become a Wendigo himself, hunting down those he had once loved, feasting upon their flesh. Most of the time, the Wendigo is said to have glowing eyes, yellowed fangs, claws, and overly large tongues.
Long. Not a chode tongue.
Wendigos are truly terrifying creatures. They're often known to mimic sounds of your loved ones to kind of trick you into going into the woods. So, like,
Betty.
back to our cold open, you're thinking about you're in the woods, maybe with some friends, maybe alone. You've had a couple brewskis.
Ooh,
You
throwing back with the boys.
Stamp out the fire, you climb in your sleeping bag, and all of a sudden, you hear your mom going, "Help me!"
Oh.
Or just a woman, and you go, what? Zzz, unzip the tent. You run by trees. It gets further away, and you're like, oh shit.
There's no lips. There's no toes!
It's the middle of the night. Maybe you have your shoes on, maybe you don't. And then you realize you've fallen for the Wendigo's trap. And it basically eats you, and it starts with your booty hole.
And, specifically, and Wendigo sightings are still known today, especially in northern Ontario, near the cave of the Wendigo, and around Kenora, where traders have allegedly spotted it.
Not stock traders.
No.
Fur traders.
Yeah. Traders, trackers, and trappers for traders, trackers, and trappers. That's a good song.
Traders, trackers,
Trappers.
trappers.
Traders, trackers, and trappers. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Blah.
Wendigo. Hit it, though. Hit it in a bit of butt, though. Santa, though. Santa Claus. North Pole. Okay. Okay.
Oh, make Santa work that North Pole. Watch Santa go south on that North Pole.
Hit the cone. Okay. Okay, this is getting chaotic. But many still believe that the Wendigo roams the woods.
Especially northern Minnesota.
And
which
the
is
prairies of
freaking
northern Minnesota and Canada.
Yeah, that's spooky.
Many have even given Kenora, Ontario, the title of the Wendigo capital of the world. And sightings of this creature have continued well into the new millennium. Interesting enough, in modern psychiatry, the Wendigo lends its name to a form of psychosis called Wendigo psychosis, which is characterized by symptoms such as an intense craving for flesh, hashtag Jeff Dahmer in the house, and an intense fear of becoming a cannibal. I guess he wasn't really fearful of it. He was kind of embracing it.
Yeah, there's this funny episode of Always Sunny in Philly, Dolphia.
Dolphia. Philadelphia.
There's a funny episode
Dolphin.
of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dee and Charlie eat Frank's meat and they don't know what it is and they think it's human flesh. And they go through the whole episode thinking that they ate human flesh, and they're eating and eating and eating, and they'll never be full because they tasted human flesh. They basically turn into a Wendigo. And then they realize at the end of the episode it was just raccoon meat, and they had a parasite. So no matter how much they ate the parasite...
That's why you gotta eat papaya. Okay. And Wendigo psychosis is described as a culture-bound syndrome. In some First Nation communities, other symptoms such as an insatiable greed and destruction of the environment are also thought to be symptoms of the Wendigo psychosis.
Being one of the most famous native spirits, it is a low-hanging fruit for Hollywood producers. And with that being said, the depiction of the Wendigos are oftentimes given the full Hollywood treatment and blown out of proportion and completely misconstrued from the actual legend. Like, for example, they always have antlers for some reason.
Yeah.
No, what?
Or, like, look like a yeti or a werewolf or a vampire. Just not accurate.
Yeah.
Like, the actual one is supposed to be kind of human-like. Like, maybe a giant.
Well, it was a
missing
human.
toes.
A toeless human.
Yeah. But no antlers, no yeti.
I wonder if it has your big toe. Did you know your big toe actually is responsible for holding you up? Like, your balance. If anybody doesn't have a big toe, send a pic at cauldronconvos@gmail.com.
We forgot to ask for foot pics. Too late. No one's watching at this point. If you're watching, say Chris Kringle, Chris comment, Chris Kringle, Chris Kringle.
Give me a Pringle.
Ooh.
Chris Kringle, Chris Kringle.
My butthole wants a Pringle. The shape of a Pringle.
Ooh, imagine you do the duck mouth, Pringle mouth.
Now here is a Reddit story about the Wendigo. There's something inhuman south of Seattle if you want to go looking for it. I've talked about my road trip on this board before. Sick to death of working myself to death, I took the first vacation of my life last year. A beat-up, rebuilt Yamaha Zuma and a foolish sense of optimism carried me across the western United States on an adventure that seriously made me rethink everything I thought I knew about the world. I loved Seattle, with the hip, original hippie neighborhoods and the perma-carnival atmosphere of Pike Place Market. The bridge troll was a highlight. Gotta love a city that sees a bridge and goes, you know what this needs? A giant concrete troll. Getting out of Seattle, however, was a total nightmare. Restricted to back roads by a motor that capped at 40 miles an hour, I must have gotten lost a dozen times despite all the help I received from baffled gas station attendants. So I was behind schedule when it came to finding my campsite. Some miles south and a little east of the city, there's a free campground. It's most often used by horse riders, and boy, you can smell it. That's actually what guided me the last few miles. There's a gravel road off a service road, and then a few crooked unpaved paths off of that. The trail markers were all bent, broken, or faded. In the end, I had to follow my nose. I set up my junior scout tent in the fading twilight. Mine was the only one there. I had the place all to myself, and after a quick meal of apples pilfered from a previous campground, I did my usual travelogue spiel to my video camera by lantern light before turning in. We love a good travel vlogger. That wasn't part of the story, that was me. I'm not sure how long I slept. I know I checked the time, but I'll be damned if I can recall what it was. Something had disturbed my well-earned beauty rest, but I was too groggy to remember what it had been. I sat in a stupor, too alert to fall back asleep, but too sleepy to be totally awake. Something brushed the side of my tent, and suddenly, I was more awake than I'd ever been. I had done plenty of camping by that point. I was familiar with the sounds of the usual nighttime critters from raccoons to coyotes. Nothing had ever bothered me in my tent before, just snuffled around camp before wandering off and leaving me be. From the sound of the footsteps, it was walking on two legs. That was a first. My mind immediately jumped to the worst possible conclusion. Bear. There's a lot of conflicting information out there about how to deal with bears, and a lot of it depends on the type of bear. Sitting there in the dark with my heart beating in my throat, I had no way of telling which species I was dealing with. Shout out or play dead. I was 30 yards from a sturdy cement block outhouse that might be better shelter. As quietly as I dared, I slipped my boots on and got ready to dash. The tent zipper seemed impossibly loud in the night as I worked it open, centimeter by centimeter. I moved agonizingly slowly. Once outside, I craned my neck to see the bear, if that's what it was between me and the outhouse. With the incredible illumination of the Milky Way, I could see the campground clearly, all the way to the tree line. There was nothing out there. I could feel something watching me. It was like feeling an insect crawl along the back of my neck. There was no logical way for me to know something had its eyes on me, but out there in the dark, in the middle of nowhere, all alone, I couldn't miss it. Still on high alert, I crept along and tried not to crunch the gravel under my feet too loudly. The outhouse was still my best bet. The door was propped open by a stone, but inside there was a heavy-duty bolt lock. I would have to spend the night surrounded by the smell of not only horse, but also human poop, but I figured that was a fair trade for not getting mauled or eaten. My hand was on the latch when I heard the awful crunch of footsteps in gravel behind me. I kicked the stone propping the door open out the way and slammed the heavy metal door shut, no longer caring how much noise I made. Whatever was on the other side had thumbs. Something tugged on the door as I struggled to bolt it shut. I won, but it was close. There was a metal mesh along the top of the structure for ventilation. Through it I heard the bellows of heavy breathing that matched my own. My phone was back in my tent because I'm an idiot, and there was no way to tell the time. The same stupid impulse that brought me out there in the first place kicked in. I had to know. Hello? Silence. Maybe they hadn't heard me. And then, hello? I could have shit myself. I was in the right place for it. The voice was feminine like my own, and the sound of it was a kick to the gut. I couldn't even tell you why it made me so uneasy. The sensation was like when you're walking upstairs and you're expecting another step, but your foot comes down on empty space. I'm sorry, I thought I was alone, I said. I'm alone. Every syllable was jarring. I'm sorry I freaked out. I didn't think there was anyone else here. Sorry, I'm here. You'd think now that I knew it was another camper and I would have opened the door, but I never did. Some deeply buried instinct kept me from taking my hand off of the bolt. You scared the crap out of me. Are there more tent sites out in the trees or something? I'm something. There are more. Her words made me sick to my stomach. Again, I couldn't have even told you why, only that they did. From her odd syntax, I guessed English wasn't her first language. Do you need to go? Use the bathroom, I mean? Because I'm going to be here a while. That wasn't a lie. I wouldn't have opened that door if it was my own mother on the other side. You need to go. Her grasp of English was improving with every sentence. There was something weird about that. Look, I'm sorry if I scared you, but you started it by creeping up around me in the dark. I won't come out. Can you go somewhere else? I'll be gone in the morning, I promise. I just wanted to sleep in peace. You need to be gone. I promise you I creep in the dark. You won't be here in the morning. Fear cemented my mouth shut. The more I spoke, the more she did, and I didn't want to hear her voice. I'm sure that makes me sound like a bigot or something, but I had the feeling I was feeding words to her, and the feeling was not pleasant. It felt like she was hungry for them. The same instinct that told me to keep quiet the first time kept me from running my dumb mouth off again. I was either dealing with someone who was not mentally well or was something else entirely. There was a threat in her words or the way she spoke them, and I had no doubt that she would be able to carry out that threat. I kept my hands on the bolt while they cramped, and the first rays of sun crept sluggishly through the mesh at the top of the walls of my shelter. It wasn't until the sun was strong enough to make me sweat in my self-imposed prison that I felt brave, stupid, enough to speak again. Hello? Are you still out there? Hello? Anyone? There was no answer, which was the best outcome I could hope for. I opened the door. My tent was untouched, at least from a distance. The oppressive feeling of being watched had dissipated. I dressed and broke down camp in record time. My moped cranked to life, but it wasn't until I went to put my helmet on that I saw the footprint. I'd kicked that rock pretty far. It was close to my bike. Naturally, I went over to it. I had to know. In a clear outline of fresh mud, there was a single print on the smooth gray of the stone. Not human, but a hoof like that of an unshod horse or goat. It was so fresh, so vivid. It hadn't been there last night when I used the bathroom before I'd gone to bed. In the soft mud in front of the outhouse door were more of the same, some of them on top of my own boot prints. If you want to go looking for whatever the hell it was, be my guest. Just be careful with your words out there, because I figured out what was wrong with that voice when I watched the playback of my travel log video. It was my own, and this was at Swamp Wells Horse Camp.
That's why I don't camp. I've never been camping. Átahsaia is a Zuni demon that has been passed by oral tradition. Numerous Zuni tales describe Átahsaia abducting, cannibalizing young women. As menacing as the Átahsaia was, however, most tales about this cannibalistic demon end in the creature's defeat. One of the most fearsome creatures, the Átahsaia, described by the Zuni people of the southwest as a huge demon-like creature, much larger than normal human. The Átahsaia was covered in thick, knobby skin and gray, long hair. It is muscular and scaly with bulging red eyes. In one story, for example, the Átahsaia lured a couple of beautiful young girls back to his cave, and he tried to trick the young maidens into sampling the soup he had cooked. Soup made from human children that he had abducted. When that didn't work, he tried to convince the girls to comb his silver hair. In this story, the girls were saved by the Zuni god of war who killed the demon and rescued the maidens. But yeah, the Átahsaia basically will trick young women and try to eat them. And feed them human flesh. Again, tricksters. But this is just like disgusting.
Tricky.
It's like,
you got me. So those were just a few Native American legends and stories, and we hope that you enjoyed them. We're definitely going to make some more videos on Native American legends like the Skinwalkers and the Thunderbird. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can watch those videos and other creepy, conspiracy, spine-chilling topics that we talk about every single week here on Cauldron Convos. And we'll see you next time on Love K-Ray. Cauldron
TTYL.
Convos. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Santa. Okay. Let's close that out.